"Can I take that dog home, Daddy?" she asked. The officer looked and froze. The county fair. The county fair smelled like funnel cake and diesel. Deputy Caleb Morgan had promised his 8-year-old daughter, Emma, 2 hours, just them, before he rotated back onto storm duty. They did the Ferris wheel, they fed the goats, and then Emma saw it. The adoption booth under a string of yellow bulbs, a handwritten sign, "Shelter dogs need homes." Emma stopped so fast his hand kept going. "Daddy," she whispered, "can we just look?" "Looking's free," Caleb said, already bracing himself for the face she'd make when it was time to say no. Kennels lined the grass. Volunteers spoke in soft voices. Then at the end of the row, a dog stood perfectly still. No barking, no pawing. Big, dark sable coat. Right ear with a distinct notch like someone had cut a tiny triangle out of it. Calm eyes that didn't slide away. Emma drifted to the gate like a magnet finds north. The dog didn't move. He waited. "Can I buy that dog, Daddy?" she asked, voice small and breathy. "Please?" Caleb opened his mouth to rehearse the speech he'd used since kindergarten. "Dogs are a lot of work. We'll see one day." But the words didn't come. The dog had turned his head just an inch and done something Caleb hadn't seen since a night he never talked about. He scanned the horizon without moving his feet, reading the crowd the way a trained partner reads a room. "Name's Hawk," the volunteer said. "Came in a month ago, no chip, no collar, scared of loud bangs, hates crates, loves holding pressure on your leg. Smart boy." She smiled at Emma. "Want to give him a treat?" Emma offered a biscuit through the bars. Hawk didn't snatch. He took it like a gentleman and kept one eye on the crowd. The old habit in Caleb's bones woke up and stood at attention. "Can he sit?" Emma asked. "Try him," the volunteer said. Emma remembered to keep her palm up. "Sit?" Hawk looked at Caleb instead, and Caleb heard his own voice come out before he could stop it. "Sits!" Hawk folded like a closing book. Fast, crisp, precise. The world went quiet. The diesel generator faded. The fair barkers blurred. Caleb stared at the dog as if a ghost had reached through time and placed a paw on his boot. Because the last time he'd said "sits" that way, a dog with the same ear notch and the same steady eyes had dropped beside him behind a busted squad car door, smoke chewing up the night. That dog's name had been K9 Duke, Caleb's partner, lost in a warehouse explosion 3 years ago in a chase that took too much. His partner, his hearing in one ear for a month, his marriage not long after. They'd never found Duke's body. The heat had been that bad. "Daddy?" Emma tugged his sleeve. "You okay?" Caleb's throat worked. "Yeah," he lied, eyes on the dog. "Buddy, what did they call you?" "Hawk," the volunteer repeated. "But he doesn't seem attached to it." Caleb's mouth was dry. "Can I step in with him?" "Of course," she said, and unlatched the gate. "If he gets overwhelmed, back out slow." Caleb knelt. He didn't touch first. Hawk closed the distance and leaned, that old perfect lean, into Caleb's knee. Caleb whispered, low and reflexive, "Vorbei." Free. Hawk's tail flicked like a tiny flag of recognition. Then Caleb said a word he hadn't said aloud since the rubble night, like it might break him if he was wrong. "Duke?" Hawk's head snapped, eyes bright. A soft, surprised sound left his throat. A half yip Caleb had heard once, years ago, the first time Duke figured out the hallway game with a hidden toy. Caleb's vision blurred. He pressed his fingers to the dog's neck, right where the old collar used to sit. There, beneath the fur, a tiny ridge of scar where the radio collar had chafed during summer heat. He didn't know whether to laugh or fold. The volunteer's voice came from far away. "Do you know him?" Caleb swallowed. "I think this is my partner," he said. "The one we lost." Emma covered her mouth. "Daddy, his name is Duke?" Caleb nodded once. "It was." He looked at the volunteer. "Can we get him scanned again? And can you bring me a rubber tug if you have one?" She sprinted to the supply box, returned with a scanner and a chewed tug. The scanner chirped along Hawk's shoulders and neck. Nothing. Over the left flank, beep, a chip, numbers. The volunteer blinked. "Huh. Our scanner missed it when he came in. It's weird, the prefix is foreign." Caleb stared. Duke's original chip had been a department implant, standard U.S. prefix. This one looked European. "Daddy," Emma whispered, "why would someone switch a chip?" "Because someone wanted him to be unfindable," he said through his teeth. "Because someone stole him." He held up the rubber tug. "Packin'. Bite." Hawk's mouth opened, soft and immediate, taking the tug with the controlled pressure canines use when they don't want to bruise. He waited for the next cue, eyes on Caleb's face like a book on its bookmark. Caleb looked at Emma, then at the volunteer, then back at a dog who shouldn't be here and was. "I need to make a call," he said. "We're not leaving him." In the parking lot, Caleb braced his phone against the patrol car window and dialed the only person who knew every inch of that night 3 years ago. Sergeant Dana Walsh, retired K-9 supervisor, the woman who'd placed Duke in Caleb's hands the first day and pulled Caleb out of the smoke on the last. "Walsh." "It's Morgan," he said. "I think I'm looking at Duke." Silence answered, a visible, heavy thing. Then a breath. "That's not funny, kid." "I'm not joking. Same ear notch, same scar. Took sits, plats, vorbei, packin', held pressure like he's reading my face." Another breath. "Where are you?" he told her. By the time he hung up, Walsh had already said, "On my way," and he believed her. She never used more words than she needed. Back at the booth, Emma had both hands looped through the chain. Hawk, Duke, pressed against her jeans like he'd known her forever. The volunteer brought paperwork and hope in equal measure. "If you want to foster to adopt, we can—" "Hold that," Caleb said gently. "We're not letting him go, but there's a history." 10 minutes later, a gray SUV rolled up. Walsh got out in jeans and a jacket that looked like it could argue with weather. She didn't smile when she saw Caleb. She walked straight to the dog, stopped a foot away, and went very, very still. "Duke, higher," she whispered. Hawk Duke stood and slipped into heel position at her left knee, like the floor had been made for that moment. Walsh's jaw flexed. She didn't cry. She never did on duty. The volunteer's eyes glossed. "If he's yours, take him. We'll void the intake. We're just happy." "No," Walsh said. "We take him, but we don't void anything. Someone stole him, switched his chip, and put him into a pipeline that dumped him at a county shelter. I want a paper trail with dates." Caleb nodded. "I want more than a reunion. I want the truth about that fire." Because here's the part they'd never solved. The night Duke died, they were chasing Mason Rudd, a warehouse thief turned arsonist. Rudd had slipped them twice. On the third try, he ran into a textile warehouse. Duke went in. The building flashed. Caleb ran after him, and the world went white. When it popped back into color, the roof was gone, and the heat was eating oxygen. Patrol pulled Caleb. They couldn't find Duke in what was left. Rudd vanished into a smoke alley and stayed gone. A month later, someone sent an anonymous envelope with a grainy photo of a dog that looked like Duke loaded into a van with foreign plates and a handler in a baseball cap. The department wrote it off as a sick prank. Caleb had burned the picture by accident when the file box fell against a space heater. Or that's what he told himself to avoid the weight behind the question. What if Duke had been taken, not lost? Walsh crouched and ran her fingers along Duke's spine. "He's a little light. Looks good otherwise." The volunteer cleared her throat. "We found him tied to a highway sign off Route 12. No collar. He had a strange band mark on his neck, like a heavy collar or a box. We figured an E-collar from a yard." Walsh's eyes chilled. "Radio collar mount," she said. "Some private security leashes use them overseas. Keeps the handler in control from a distance." Emma reached through the bars and Duke nosed her fingers like a promise. "Daddy," she said, "I know you have to do police stuff, but can he sleep at our house tonight? He looks tired." Caleb looked at Walsh. Walsh nodded. "We take him home," she said, "but we call Detective Morales on the way. The chip prefix, the neck mark, the old case. This smells like trafficking. If Rudd is still in the picture, he didn't just torch a building. He stole a police K-9. The volunteer printed a Foster release and cried into the carbon copy like a person who gets to be in the good part of a story for once. She handed Emma a bag of food and 2 cheap tennis balls. "He chews through these in 4 minutes, she warned. "Good luck, sweetheart." Thank you, Emma said solemnly, as if accepting a medal. Caleb opened the SUV door. Whoop! Up. Duke hopped in like he'd been waiting 3 years to hear the word. At home, the big shepherd moved like he was reading blueprints. He checked the living room corners, sniffed the hall, paused at Emma's doorway twice, then settled in the spot where he could watch both the front door and the kitchen. When the heater kicked on, he didn't flinch. When the microwave beeped, he only tilted an ear. When a far-off truck backfired, he lifted his head, listened, and put it back down like a note filed. Deputy Caleb Morgan set the old shadow box on the coffee table. Duke's scorched badge plate, a bent brass clip from a ruined leash. The dog stepped close, touched the glass with his nose, and exhaled. It sounded like a door clicking into the right frame. Emma sat cross-legged on the rug, both hands sunk into fur. Is he really, Duke? She whispered. Caleb knelt. He lifted the lip titanium cap on the right upper canine, exactly where the training accident had put it. He slid his fingers along the neck, faint ridge of scar where the radio collar had rubbed during the hot summers. He didn't trust his voice, so he nodded. Then he's home, Emma said simply, and wrapped her arms around Duke's neck. The dog leaned, steady, deliberate, the way only partners do. Sergeant Dana Walsh arrived with coffee that could wake the dead and a small canvas bag. She didn't say much at the door. She never had to. In the kitchen, she studied the dog in the way of someone who knows the difference between hope and proof. Higher, she murmured from the threshold. We'll report what we found. The chip prefix, the neck mark, the Route 12 dump, she said low. But tonight isn't about that. Caleb looked at her. You believe me. I watched him grow up, she said. And I watched you. That dog is who you say he is. The rest we can prove in daylight. They ate dinner at the coffee table like it was a holiday. Emma tore her roll in half and held out a piece. Duke waited for the cue, took it soft, and didn't beg for more. When the thunder rolled again miles away, he rose without being asked, padded to Emma's spot on the couch, and lay with his back against her shins, a weighted blanket with a heartbeat. Before bed, Emma dug in a craft bin and brought out a blue bandana she'd started sewing months ago. For the dog we'd get one day. The stitching wasn't straight. The letters leaned on each other like tired friends. She tied it around Duke's neck over the new collar. The bandana said, Next kindness. Duke. Looks right, Walsh said, blinking more than the lamp required. Caleb carried the shadow box down the hall and hung it above the old set of hooks that had been empty too long. He clipped the new leash under it. It felt like putting a picture back where it belonged in a house after a storm. In the doorway, he paused. Duke was stretched across the hallway like a polite doorstop, head toward Emma's room, ears at half-mast. Emma had fallen asleep with a book open on her chest. Duke's breathing synced with hers by the second minute. Walsh stood beside him. You going to be okay? She asked. Caleb watched the shepherd's chest rise and fall, saw the tiny scuff in the titanium cap when the lamp caught it, heard the soft woof the dog made when the house creaked. For the first time in 3 years, he said. Walsh squeezed his shoulder. Then call Morales tomorrow. Tonight. Take the win. Caleb leaned down. Bleib, he whispered. Stay. Duke's tail thumped once, meaning already doing it. Caleb turned off the hall light. The house went to that good darkness where the air feels warm and the floor stops remembering boot prints. In the quiet, a collar tag tapped the baseboard once and stilled. Sometimes the story doesn't end with sirens or a courtroom. Sometimes it ends right here. A plain collar, a crooked bandana, a kid breathing steady, and a partner who found his way back without a map. The rest, paperwork, questions, justice, can wait for morning. Tonight, the truth is enough. He came home.